Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance Channel's Romance Roundup, the #1 romance book recs talk show. I am Liz Donatelli.
And I'm Libby Kay, author of the sweet romance series Buckeye Falls and the upcoming When Sparks Fly.
Libby and I welcome special guest Leslie Murphy of She Reads Romance Books blog and podcast. Leslie is sharing her most anticipated romance books of 2025 and her fave book of 2024. Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance Channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on PodBean and all podcast apps. Viewers and listeners can email us at readerseeksromance@yahoo.com. And follow us on Instagram at LibbyKAuthor and at Reader Seeks Romance. Hello, Libby, and hello, Leslie.
I just realized we have all the L names today.
Hello.
Yes, it's a very alliterative episode.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to have you back, Leslie. We last spoke with you in episode 13. And following that, every now and again, Libby and I would mention you if there was a book you had listed on the show that we read, or, I think sometimes we would just mention Leslie. I don't know. So
Yeah.
Leslie would just come up.
That's my day. Thank you so much. I was gone, but not far.
That is true. That is true. You're always on our minds. And every Friday when I get ready to do my release day post, She Reads Romance Books is one of my blog resources. So I do think of you frequently.
I do too. And sometimes I get mad because you have too many good picks. And that's why my TBR is 1.5 miles long.
I know. And I feel like this episode could be like hours, but
I know.
but it won't be. Yeah.
Yeah. Leslie, let the roundup begin.
Giddy up. Here we go.
I always love that. Gosh, you guys are too cute. Okay. So I think my first task was to share my favorite book from 2024, which, gosh, that's such a hard task, right? I think I read 144 books, I think, last year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow,
I mean,
that's impressive.
Wow.
I sometimes have to remember, Leslie, you have a job and you have kids. Like, you don't have to put your nose in a book every 5 minutes. So of those 144, I did have my list of best of 2024. But if I had to pick one, I had to really think hard about this. I actually think it's a book I mentioned when we last spoke on one of my most anticipated books for 2024. So it totally nailed it, my expectations. And that is Play Along by Liz Tomford.
Oh,
no way.
I remember you mentioning that too. Yeah.
I mentioned it when it didn't even have a cover. It didn't even have a book summary. And I was like, I don't really care. I know this is going to be one of the best books of 2024. And it was, because for so many reasons. One, people will love it. It's a sports romance about a baseball player. And it's one of those oops, we got married trope. And it falls into he falls first trope. So quick summary, Kennedy Kay, she's one of the only women staff on this professional baseball team. She works as one of the trainers, but it's really sort of under her level of training, but that you'll find out why in the book. And she's now ready, I need my dream job. I need to switch teams. This is what I'm doing at the end of this year. Then there's Isaiah Rhodes, who is one of the players. He's sort of like this playboy hotshot, makes everybody laugh, has fun. And he's always fallen for Kennedy, but she has always been engaged. Turns out, though, one day she shows up and she no longer has her engagement ring on. It's right before the new season. They happen to both be in Vegas. They hang out. Next thing you know, they wake up, wedding rings on their fingers. And she's like, oh my gosh, but I can't marry a player. This is going to ruin my chances for finding this next job. And so he's like, don't worry. He's like, we're going to pretend we've always had a thing. We got married, so we have to play husband and wife so that you can get your dream job. And he hopes in the meantime, he can convince her that this is real and to stay married.
It sounds so cute. I read her first two books in the series. This just bumped obviously it up to the top of my next book because this is amazing.
I've
I love
loved
her
the
writing and the
entire city,
banter.
Windy City series. Fantastic. And I think why I love it is I think any author could write a really fun baseball romance who falls for the trainer, right? Super cute setup. But I think Liz always just brings that certain extra to her books and to her characters. Like I said, Isaiah, he's just top boyfriend material. He sort of has his own backstory that he's struggling with that you learn, and I love that about him. And then Kennedy, her backstory is that she doesn't really like to be touched, and her ex always thought she was like this cold person, but Isaiah sort of teaches her the ways in the bedroom and warms her up, and she just sort of blossoms into this woman that she's always wanted to while also trying to pursue this career, and it's just fabulous.
Oh, I love the he falls first trope. Is that a favorite of yours? Because that's one I don't think about often, but when I come across it, I'm like, yes.
Same. I don't really think about it often either. I guess so. I don't know that I've read many, but I think when it's done right, it's
Mhm.
really good.
So now that we know your fave of 2024, we'd love to hear your anticipated 2025. Although you've probably read some 2025. Have you read anything yet that's made the
I'm
list?
going to talk about two of them.
Oh, okay.
So
Awesome.
this is probably one of my favorite book lists all year to put together is looking ahead of what's to come for the new year, right? And I think
Mhm.
doing that this year, I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many books already announced that are coming out, like more than ever have in the past. So I was like, it was really hard for me to narrow down my list. So I actually made two. I made my most anticipated new romance books of 2025 list, which had 25 titles on it. Then I had to make a most anticipated romanticities titles list. So that had 25 too. Well,
Wow.
Onyx Storm was on both. So we'll say I had 49 books that I had narrowed down to. And so now I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to pick five. So I cheated a little bit. I picked seven, but I'm lumping two together. So we'll say I'm six. So the first one I have read. It is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young.
Ooh,
Oh, yes.
So
I
that
came across that one. Really cute cover.
the
it
cover's
releases
adorable.
tomorrow. Well, as we're recording this, so the end of January, January 28th. I love Hannah's writing. She's one of those authors. I'm just going to read whatever she writes. I don't really care what it's about. I'm just going to read it because she's so good. And so, but
Mhm.
this book I particularly love because it's about high school sweethearts. Sarah and Caleb, they married when they were like 18 or 19. I can't remember. Now they're in their 30s in this book. And they're sort of at this place, or at least Sarah, the heroine, where she's not really sure who she is without Caleb, right? Because they've sort of grown up together in a way.
Mhm.
And then there happens to be this sort of fundraising event that she organizes and it kind of flops. But here comes Caleb, her savior, to like, kind of save the day. And that's sort of been his MO in their relationship. And it was sort of like this last straw for her to be like, I need to find out who I want to be and then what that means for our relationship. And to do that, she's like, we're going to go on a trip in the woods with these other couples as like couples therapy, even though they're not
Oh.
outdoorsy people at all. And
Okay.
because he loves her so much, he's like, okay, let's do this. And so, one, I loved it because you don't see a lot of romance books about married couples, right?
Mhm.
Or at least married couples where it doesn't focus on infidelity or fertility, those sort of, you know,
Mhm.
angles. These
Yeah.
these two love each other. They are like couple goals, soulmates, right? But I think she will appeal to a lot of readers because you just sort of find yourself in life where you're just like, is this really where I want to be? And how could our relationship be different? Those kinds of questions that I think will
Mhm.
resonate a lot with readers. I'm super excited because this is our February 2025 book of the month for the She Reads Romance Books book club. So we're going to talk about it in club, and Hannah's going to come for our author Q&A to talk about it,
Oh,
Nice.
fun.
which is going to be
Nice.
super special because not that it's autobiographical, but she married her high school sweetheart at age like 18.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know that.
Yeah, so she sort of pulled in some of those things, I guess, in writing the book. But it'll be interesting to talk to her more about that.
Is there hot and heavy married sex?
No, there's
Then it's
maybe
pretty accurate then.
there's like one or two scenes. So if you want it, it's sort of there, but not like super hot and heavy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was wondering if they rediscover each other sexually in the woods. Because to me, like woods, I feel like it's raw. So I was like, oh, I wonder if it's going to, reignite
In
a
like a
spark.
There
tent
is an
situation.
outdoorsy scene, I will say that. But there is this one sweet part where he was like, or she's sort of like trying to tease him, and he's like, "No, we're not." He's like, "Because I want to win your heart first," or something. He says something like that, and
Oh,
you're just like, "Oh my God, Caleb, you were just
oh.
the
Oh,
sweetest."
that's really sweet. Okay.
I was already sold, but that definitely just sold it for me.
So
Yeah,
sweet.
that is
Absolutely.
sweet.
Okay, so that was January's book. Coming up in February, I also read this one, First Time Caller by BK Borison. It releases February 11th. And if
I'm
you
so excited. We're gonna read that for one of our local book clubs. And I love BK Borison. Like, I'm just okay, I'm gonna shut up so you can tell me how wonderful it is.
right, so good. So if you grew up in the era as I did, where like Meg Ryan rom-coms were like what you lived for, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so this book was inspired by you know this by the movie Sleepless in Seattle, which I
Oh,
loved.
yay.
Um, so the hero of the story is Aidan Valentine. He hosts Baltimore's Romance Hotline radio show, but he's hiding a secret that he's sort of fallen out of love with love. But then this 12-year-old girl calls in because she's worried about her single mom and her lack of dating life. And so they get to chatting. And so basically, this girl's mom's love life is like broadcasted all around Baltimore and becomes like the next hottest thing. So Lucy, the mother, is invited to come onto the show and talk about her dates that she might now go on that Aiden helps to set up. But of course, that they don't anticipate that her and Aiden, hit it off. And yes, BK Borison, gosh, I loved her Love Light Farm series. And I'm going to be talking to her actually Friday about for the podcast and be like, what was it like starting something new? Because honestly, this is already on my best of 2025 list. It was so good.
Ugh.
Um,
Wow.
just um I just love the slow burn of the story.
Because she does
Um,
that really well with Love Light Farms. The pacing is impeccable.
so good. And just this hopefulness of the book. Like I read this in November and I was kind of not feeling, super hot about the world. And this just book, like I said, it was a balm to my soul in my review because it just made me feel good about people, about the world. And she sort of threads this sort of found family piece to it about the girl's mom and her dad and his partner and just the people the mom works with. It's just this like beautiful family that works that they've sort of developed. And then you learn Aiden's backstory, and you just want to be a fly on the wall to them in the little booth, the radio booth, like, because you can just sense the chemistry between them in their chairs.
Oh,
So it was just really, really good. Third book, I'm super excited for. Releases the end of February, February 25th. It's The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy. I consider Elle Kennedy as like queen of new adult romance. It's about college senior Charlotte, who she supposedly kind of lives this double life, right? Her day life, she's this STEM biomedical engineer student, like adopted to this really overachieving family, but by night she sort of has a little bit of a daredevil to her and how she parties and things like that. And so she ends up talking to two guys on this dating app who happen to be hockey players at the college and who have this sort of kink of every now and then sharing a girl
Oh
between the two.
my.
And so one of the guys on the hockey team, his father is a congressman, I guess. And so he has this journalist who's going to do a story on the hockey team and on him. And so, but now he has this sort of relationship with these other two. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is going to come out. And so I'm like, I need to know what happens. Yeah. So, okay. End of February. So next one is going to be on April 1st. It is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez.
Ooh, I love her.
So you don't really have a lot to go on with the book summary. So Xavier, Rush, and Samantha, I guess, have this like super incredible date one night together. But then Samantha sort of realizes that her family is in crisis. Not really sure what that means. And that any kind of relationship at this point in her life is sort of impossible. So she basically says, forget me. We're just going to have this one night to always remember. See ya, kind of thing. That's all we know. I need to know more. So I'm reading this book. Like, queue up, I think, the tissue boxes for reading this book, just as,
Yeah.
anytime you read Abby. So I feel like she's just really hit it out of the park. Her last couple books that I've read, and just like with Liz, you just get so much more out of her reading. Not just the love story, but just these amazing character arcs and stories. So I'm really
And the
curious.
friendships, she writes friendships very well.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited to see what she brings this year.
She's, like you said, with the tissues, she's one of the first romance authors where I was surprised by how I just forgot the name of her first one.
The Friend Zone?
The
Was
Friend
this
Zone. I remember reading that, and I won't give away. I mean, if you read it, you understand. I remember reading that, and it was one of those books I stayed up till 2 a.m. finishing. And I remember going to work so upset about what happened with one of the side characters that one of my coworkers is like, "What's the matter with you?" And I'm like, "It's fictional. There's no reason I should be upset. These people don't exist." But she
Wow.
just writes these characters that you just love from the beginning, and you're invested, and they feel very three-dimensional. So yes, I'm with you. All I had to know was Abby Jimenez wrote a book, and I'm like, all right.
Same?
Yeah. I have yet to read Abby's work.
Oh, I didn't know that. Add that to the list, Liz. I'm just going to keep bombarding you with these suggestions.
Abby Jimenez appeared on Food Network's Cupcake Wars in 2018 and TLC's Fabulous Cakes. Did she give up baking?
She has a cupcake shop in Minnesota, I know.
Oh.
But she just started writing, and obviously that has taken off. So I don't know how invested she is still in that world, but yeah, she created cupcakes.
That's interesting.
I don't even remember. Are there bakers in her stories? Because I don't necessarily associate her books with baking. I have to think about it now.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'll have to look into that later. But yeah, no, I absolutely love her. And you said coming out in early April. That's just in time for my
April 3rd.
birthday.
So I'm giving 2 books. I'm lumping them together because while they probably can be read as standalones, I'm really looking forward to reading them because of the buildup that there's been in past books that I've read. They've only just been sort of mentions or other side characters in books, but that enough has been so powerful that I'm like, I need these books now, please. The first one being Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage, comes out April 15th. Right? So it's the last book in her Rebel Blue series, Cam and Dusty's story. So we've seen a little bit more of Cam in the past books, particularly last year's hit Lost and Lassoed, because she shares a daughter with Gus, and that was his love story. But you know that Dusty has loved her forever, but yet she was supposed to marry somebody else. And this is not a spoiler because it was given in Lost and Lassoed, and in the book summary that her fiance does not show up for the wedding. So now she has no place to live. So she finds a home to rent, and her neighbor happens to be Dusty, who is back in town because he had left and was like, I'm out of here. And I can't believe he was going to let the love of his life marry somebody else. So I need to know why he was going to.
Yes.
So now they're neighbors, and hopefully they're going to get there happily ever after.
Oh my God.
You mentioned that she had nowhere to live, correct?
Because I guess she must share a house with her now ex-fiance.
Well, that's Libby's catnip.
Yeah, I don't know why. And I call it the homeless trope. That's not what I mean, but there's something about like, someone's landlord and I'll just stay here for a little bit, or, I have nowhere to go. I mean, in real life, that would give me anxiety like you wouldn't believe, but in a romance book, I just can't get enough.
Yeah.
All right. I'm making that's my next book list. You're giving me a great idea.
Yeah.
I need to like put that together. Starting with this one, Wild and Wrangled. I cannot wait.
It's going to be amazing.
Yes. Okay. So similar in terms of I just fell in love with these characters from a previous book that I'm like, I need this book now. This actually might be the book that I was most looking forward to this year.
Ooh.
And this is Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt, coming out May 20th.
Ooh.
So this is a second chance love story about a couple that you first meet in her definite must-read hit from last year called Savor It. So Ren and Ellis Bird, they were just in a few scenes from that book, but again, totally got my attention and I need to know their story because they fell in love as kids, had a son when they were only teenagers, built a life, but then they're now divorced in their 30s and she runs the bakery in town. He's the firefighter. So they're constantly crossing paths and raising their kid who now is going off to college. And so they're off to help him move in. And Ellis convinces Ren to say, hey, let's take this extended road trip back to home and see if we can give this relationship one last shot.
Oh, that
So
sounds really good.
oh, so it's this little like forced proximity, you know, angle to them being on this road trip, second chance if you love it. And I'm just desperate to know what went wrong because you can sense already that they just really love each other and are meant to be. And so I can't wait to read it.
You said that one's in May, right?
It is May 20th. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I have my advanced reader copy like all ready to go, but I'm like, I need to pick the right moment to read this because
Yes.
you can only read a book first one time, and I'm just like saving it. So
You know, there's something about that anticipation. It can make it better and worse at the same time. It's like,
yes.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever read alien romance, Leslie?
I have occasionally. I wouldn't say it's sort of one I just pick up. So I haven't read one in a little while. I read a chameleon alien last year, which was
a chameleon alien. So it was a shifter type of.
He was in full chameleon the entire time, and him and this woman who crashes on his, they couldn't even, you know, communicate, but they find ways to communicate in other ways.
Oh my! Do you recall the author?
All of his appendages. It's called My Chameleon Mate. It was actually a really good story, well written, and I mean, I was going down this like, what's this whole idea with monster romance?
Yeah,
you know, which is, you know, fine line with Alien. So anyway, to your point, I've read a few. Yes.
Okay, interesting.
I feel like, Liz, that's your catnip. I like the homeless and you like the aliens.
Yeah, but not the chameleon, because as I said in the last episode, like I want them to commit to something. Chameleons keep changing. I want the alien to be just, you know, and just an alien.
Oh, gotcha. No,
just a monster.
He didn't change colors or anything. He was pretty, you know, he was like, this is my mate. I am all about her. So
okay.
He was steadfast. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Maybe I'd pick it up. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. There's something exciting to me about aliens. I think it's because when you open up an alien romance, you never really know where it's going to go. Did you read Butcher and Blackbird? Or is it Blackbird?
I started it and then I was like, this isn't for me. So
oh, come on. Now I'm getting ganged up on here.
No, I was just curious because for a minute I couldn't remember if it was mentioned in passing last year. So how many pages did you get into it, Leslie? When did you put it down?
Gosh, that's a good question. I'll have to look it up. Maybe I saved it. Nothing super gory came. I don't remember, but I was just kind of like,
okay.
I don't think this is for me. Like, yeah. I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because didn't it start with like a cage or something?
Yeah, there was a
she
cage.
was in a cage with a dead body.
And
I mean, that hooked me from the beginning.
I was like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I read about 70 pages and then I offered in the last episode to give it away to anybody who reached out. And just an update on that, someone did reach out.
Okay, I thought you were going to say nobody did.
No, someone did. Meredith Shore. She's the rom-com author of As Seen on TV and Someone Just Like You. And Meredith was like, yeah, I'll try it. So I actually marked off where I left off.
And what's the other one that's popular? Has like the skull, blue skull on the cover. I was gonna listen to that, but then like going through all the trigger warnings, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think this is gonna be for me either. It was like,
Oh, it sounds like something Libby would
nice.
read.
Yeah. And I was like, that's one too many triggers. I mean, the list went on, and I was like, I don't think I can do this.
Wait, what were the triggers?
Oh my God, it was like a ton. Like,
Okay.
I feel like there was knife play, stalking, um, not dubious consent. I mean, just like name it, and it was there. Oh.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put on
But
my
it's super
librarian hat
popular.
later
It's super
and
popular right now.
find it. You said it has a blue skull on the cover. I will
Yeah,
fall down a research
that's gonna
rabbit
drive
hole.
me crazy.
I'm typing in blue skull romance.
I'm frantically Googling. Lights Out?
What is it? Lights Out. Oh, that's
Lights
it.
Out.
Okay,
The
well,
Vessa Allen. The couple who stays together is sold right now. I'm going to buy this as soon as we're done.
yeah, that is such a Libby read.
It is. It combines my two passions of true crime and romance.
If one of them is homeless, then
It'll be
wow.
the best book of the year.
I think she like has this kink where she kind of wants like, she wants someone to like kind of attack her in her house. Like,
Well, all right. Well,
just
Oh,
there's a lot going on.
Wasn't there a Tessa Bailey book that she co-wrote with someone, Libby, that we know?
Yes, and they were in the closet. Wasn't there something with a closet?
Something about that her neighbor, she let the neighbor know that she wanted to be stalked and everything.
Yes, and didn't he draw pictures of her?
Yes, he had like pictures of her, like, but it was all staged as part of.
It was Captivated. I forget who she wrote it with, but it was Captivated.
Captivated, yeah.
Yes.
I don't mind like the role playing or playing out that thing, but you mentioned about slay together, so they are serial killers then.
Well, I mean, at least in the sense that is the tagline on the cover of the book.
I can't remember for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would check
that seems to be like a thing now. I don't know.
Yeah, it is everywhere. Well, and now my algorithm is already ruined, so I will be getting suggestions for this.
You're on a watch list, Libby.
Yeah, I know.
The government's on to you.
They're going to be like, help this poor woman.
They're going to send cops to your door.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be remiss to say I do have one, although maybe I should say two romanticies on my list.
Oh, please.
Okay, good.
So, of course, Onyx Storm, right? Because I like everybody else has dived into that. I'm into it now. I think I'm only into page 70 or something. It's good. I like it.
Is it also
so
like 500 pages like the first two?
Yes. But I find like I'm reading it slow because I have to like digest like all the names and what's going on. And so I'm like, I'm not going to get through this in a day or two. So I'm taking my time. But that was definitely like, I was looking forward to that book. But probably my other most anticipated romantasy book for this year, it comes out June 10th, is The Primal of Blood and Bone by Jennifer Armentrout. I'm excited because this series has been going on for years. And so this is the 6th and final book to wrap up this series. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to see. I should actually look to see when that first book came out, how long it's been. Castile and Poppy, their love story. Oh my gosh. This is why I read fantasy romance. And this is like, their book is sort of like the bar I hold for fantasy romance because it was so good. Like, her world building, but the two of them as characters and their love story. So the previous book, A Soul of Ash, sort of retold book 1 from the hero's point of view, because something has happened to Poppy and we're waiting for her to wake up. So I just need to know how the story ends, how they're going to live happily ever after, what happens to her sister, his brother. So I think anybody who loves this series as much as I do, this is like the must-read book of this year. So those are my books that I'm like, oh, bring on 2025. I'm ready.
Well, I'm excited because when we had you on last time, I read everything. And I think Bride and the Tessa Bailey were two of my favorites for that year.
Bride for me.
By Allie Hazelwood.
Right.
Yep. And Fangirl Down, I read that in one sitting and lost my mind. And I'm excited book 3 comes out.
Yeah, February 4th. It's so good. I read it. It's really, really good.
Oh, good. I'm so excited.
And for those of you listening, the title of Tessa Bailey's new sports romance is Dream Girl Drama.
tune into my episode of the podcast on the 3rd, because I talked to Tessa about it, and we have a really special announcement that everyone's going to want to hear regarding that book. So tune in.
Uh-oh.
Talk about like fangirling over one of your like all-time favorite authors. She
Mhm.
is like the coolest and was so fun to talk with, and really like give some cool insights behind the book and writing it. So it was
Oh,
fun.
cool.
Okay, well, let's see. Well, then I guess that's it. Show's over.
Yeah. Good night.
And that's our roundup. Thank you for joining us, Leslie. It's always a pleasure to be in your company.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for having me. Always a blast talking with you both.
Watch Romance Roundup on Reader Seeks Romance channel and subscribe on YouTube. Listen to Romance Roundup on PodBean and all podcast apps. Thanks for joining us, romance readers.
Happy reading, everyone.